We definitely have people with good attitudes. For whatever reason, we've been very blessed in the fact that the people that are hired at this bank are kind of expected to be nice to each other. And we have a lot of customers that walk in and just say that they came in and they loved the fact that they could tell that we truly were happy.
Before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to introduce two guests that are here today, Ben DeVoe and Trudy Sessions, both with Pantex. Ben's in a leadership training program, and Trudy promotes those sorts of things with different people coming up through Pantex. So they're here shadowing us today, and we've told them a little bit about what to expect at the meeting. We'll see if we have any surprises.
Had I realized, I wouldn't
Welcome.
have been embarrassed.
The rest of these folks are either the press or staff. So
I know which is which. There will be a quiz.
all right, it could be. Okay, well, let's call the meeting to order. We'll ask the city manager to go through our rather brief agenda.
Mayor, it may be best that I leave some more often. They kept this quite brief and to the point for this coming week. Item number 1, approval of the minutes of the last Tuesday's meeting. Comments, corrections, suggestions, additions? Okay.
No, that would be good. Yeah, no.
All right, move to item number 2, ordinance 7388, second and final. This is changing the zoning from ag district to PD or planned development for the expansion at Bell, and this primarily supports the reconstruction of the civilian relentless machine. Kelly, any calls, changes?
Nope.
Questions from the commission?
Back of the deal.
This is a heck of a deal. Item number 3, ordinance 7389, also a second final, also zoning. This over at Glen Oak Lane and Bell Street, and this is that little side street that connects from the frontage back to Bell off of I-27. Change from light commercial to heavy commercial. Okay.
No changes.
No changes. Mayor and Commission. All right, we've got to find a way to slow down a little bit here.
Second finals are easy.
That's right.
Item number 4.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Item number 4, second and final of an ordinance vacating and abandoning the 2.58 acre drainage easement that's no longer needed. It's kind of on the southern end of the Greenways development. You know, those just don't generate a whole lot of problems. Item number 5, resolution. This resolution would support the Alliance of Excel Municipalities, or what we call AXM, to oppose legislation that would jeopardize Bell's ability to fully participate in the utility rate-making process and support legislation that continues original jurisdiction. If I could, I'll kind of step back just a little bit. Everybody's aware of the major franchised utilities. At one time, that was your telecommunications, which of course was Bell, or the Bell companies. And in our case, electricity through SPS or XL Energy and gas through Atmos. All of the telecoms are now under a statewide franchise agreement that has a formula base for most of the public right-of-ways. So that's kind of something that's been off our plate for several years on that. However, regulating gas and electric has remained up to this point primarily in the hands of the city commission. So when one of those utilities files for what's called a rate case to bring it in, that's brought first to this body, an attempt to say, yes, that's good, and no, that's not, and try to work our way through it, see what we can negotiate. Ultimately, if those are not settled at the local level, they're referred either to the Public Utility Commission in the case of electricity, or the Railroad Commission in the case of gas. They sit as kind of the final body who will act in a judicial fashion and say the rate change is X. Right up until you get to that point, though, the jurisdiction remains with this elected body. Your staff, your consultants all have the ability through this period of time to work with, to negotiate, and let's take this out, let's put this in. to see how good of a deal you can get for your citizens, for your ratepayers. And in most cases, having that structure does allow you to settle for a manner that's favorable to your residents. You're the ones that stand for election. Your voters are the ones who are going to be impacted by those rate cases.
Which begs the question, I know without doubt that the Railroad Commission is elected.
Yes,
The Public Utility Commission
appointed.
is appointed by the governor,
Correct.
only by the governor. Of course,
Correct.
and has to go through the normal procedure of advice and consent.
Senate has to
Senate,
confirm that.
yeah. But, so there's no opportunity, except to the governor, of corporate contributions for their appointment, or in the case of the Railroad Commission, their election. And therefore, what do I say? Right.
In the case of that, I remember.
And there exists or sets up the possibility for a quid pro quo. Just want to make that point.
Sir, good point.
And I'm going to let you finish, and I've got a couple other questions.
In December of 2012, the House Committee on State Affairs issued an interim report. And in the interim report, it discusses basically eliminating original jurisdiction by local elected bodies as a, quote, inefficiency in the regulation of public utilities. There are two draft bills out there, and I apologize, the same language is mirrored as it applies to the Railroad Commission as well. So they've got gas and electric both identified, where in the mind of this report, you having that original jurisdiction, you able to act as an intervener, not on behalf only of yourself as a customer, but of the entire constituency of your city, is now an inefficiency. And the proposal is to take that and eliminate it. Thus, when a rate case was filed, the city of Amarillo, of course, would appear. We would not appear in the basis of requiring that utility come and sit with us and sit with us directly and attempt to negotiate it. We would all march down to the appropriate regulatory body where the city's standing would be the same as any other single customer. I think that's an issue. Secondly,
And would not be recognized as a
you would not be bargaining.
class action
Yes.
or as representing our citizens.
Correct.
Wouldn't it just lead to one rate for the entire state?
Exactly.
We're seeing that already in gas rate making, so I think that's an excellent point.
And then what purpose is there for a utility agency if there is no debate about rate? I mean, aren't they basically saying there's not near as much need for either of those agencies if there's no debate about rate?
Both the agencies have other roles. I think one of the major roles for the Public Utility Commission is the rate setting. Certainly the Railroad Commission consumes the vast majority of their estimated resources actually managing and regulating production and exploration for those natural resources. The rate making at the Railroad Commission is kind of a minor component. But the other hook that's in the report that we expected in the draft bills today, in the original jurisdiction scenario, as you work on that, of course, these are not inexpensive, but a small percentage-wise rate increase of millions of dollars to the utilities. We aggregate those expenses, if we go through it, the utility pays that, and ultimately they recover it from the ratepayers, which actually gives us both very good incentive once you get the bars put closely together to settle that. That expense portion, or the eligibility of that expense portion to be reimbursed would go away.
So it's all on us, the citizens to pay it, or the city to pay it?
City debate.
Each
Which means
individual-
the citizens pay it.
To me, what it does is it lessens the ability of your average residential consumer to have a voice or to be represented in the process.
I learned something this week that surprised me. When Jim and I were on the Commission 0405, Cox bought Suddenlink. Suddenlink renegotiated. At the time, they carried the franchise, I think, and then they had to renegotiate shortly after that. We were involved in that. I went there to visit with the Chamber of Commerce and was asking them when that was up again, and he said, "Oh, you have no say-so in this.
That's what I was talking about with the telecommunications.
Same kind of deal.
Goes under the state.
We have a memo coming to you, that's on our radar. August 2013 is when the cable franchise will expire, and you should anticipate seeing it coming back to you. It's now a matter of state law rather than local control.
And that's basically what's happening again here.
Similar, although we have limited influence on the rates charged by telecommunications companies. You have great influence today on the rates that are charged for electricity.
And I know with Sutherland, we have negotiations with them to include other things like Channel 95, other things that benefited the community. And really, there's no reason for them to receive any of those grants. Requests that help benefit the community.
It would be their individual corporate decision. We'll be bringing you a full briefing on that and those possibilities, but your census is accurate.
But then I'm wondering how that, I mean, we're absolutely losing local control of anything that is affecting our citizens of these days.
Well, it folds into another issue for a gubernatorial campaign rather than any kind of local control at all. It's just one more issue that's on the platform for a party or government. It's way so far removed from the people.
Isn't local control why you can have kind of a monopoly?
Yes, it is.
And so if we take local control away, then let's have competition.
Well, I would personally be very cautious of that. The vast majority of the state of Texas is in what's called a deregulated rate market for electricity. And the rate then paid by the homeowners in that deregulated environment actually went up, not down. The rates that went down were those rates charged to the large commercial and industrial accounts. And the logic being, it's much easier for me to come to a major refinery and cut a deal for a favorable rate, have them as a base customer, than it is to go to 10,000 homes to do that.
Yeah.
So what's happened down there, the residential market is subsidizing the competition for the commercial and industrial.
But you don't give the individual homeowner any say-so through their commissioners. And so, yes, it is very simple to get those and not even have it on the homeowner's radar because nobody brings it up, and yet they can go negotiate and give our money to the big producers, the big users, and yet the homeowners are getting that transfer of cost foisted off on their shoulders unknowingly.
The promise of deregulation was lower prices for consumers, and it hasn't been. The promise regulatorily was, don't worry, the Public Utility Commission has an office of Public Utility Counsel which will look out for citizens. It hasn't.
Well,
The proof is in the ratings.
Isn't that almost impossible with the number of municipalities for them to have any effect? Where you're feeding it down the other way. We don't like what they're doing. We feed them the problem to resolve. But the other way, they've just got too much to deal with to protect every jurisdiction in the state.
Well, there's no bargaining power on behalf of the average consumer in that deregulated market. When you start looking at rates for whatever utility that are established across a major piece of geography, you again don't have a way to account for local or regional differences in the cost of service. You don't have the way for example, there's more gas consumed per household in Perryton, Texas than there is in Midland. And it's just a function of the climate. It's colder. Common rates don't allow you to recognize and negotiate those very real differences.
And in the case Jim and I went to Austin on, we could end up paying for infrastructure that we really basically got in place here, but as Midland Odessa expands exponentially now, we pay for their new structure being built. Our ratepayers here, they've already paid for ours here, are now helping to pay for theirs.
And they didn't
Yeah.
help
And they
pay for
didn't,
ours.
they didn't help pay for ours.
It causes that capital cost to be amortized over a much larger population. So until the natural life cycle rolls around and everybody got equal access to that new investment,
When we went up
one's
and
paying for
greeted
another.
the people that were the commissioners afterwards, they leaned across the counter and said, this is just sort of the way the state's going. Sorry.
I
And
think
it's
they said
easier-
that publicly.
They did. I mean, to
On the
me, I was
system
shocked. I was shocked.
Has this been reduced to legislation that's been filed yet?
No, if you'll let me get a phone message, I've got some more information on that. The bills have been prepared through the Ledge Council, and I'm trying to find out who in the legislature asked for that, who asked to have them to do that first. But I've got a message, I hope will tell me who that is.
Why don't you step out and see if you can grab that.
Does
We'll work on it.
GML get in this at all, or is it more left to the individual?
This one's going to be left up to the individual cities. This Axum, the Alliance of Excel Municipalities, is a large group of cities across the Panhandle and the High Plains. All of us are looking at this. All of us are bringing this to our commissions to try to see if you guys want to do this. I think it's very important that you do. If we do nothing, there's no doubt the bills will get filed and they'll go through. I did mention this to our local delegation, and they understand very strongly what the proposal would do and why we don't find that to be something that's in the best interest of our residents.
Did you say there's no doubt they'll go through? You don't mean pass, you can go through the process.
They'll go through the process, but if there's not significant opposition up front, I bet you they'll pass.
Well, it's just curious to me because every legislator is in the same boat that we are in with their public. And I would think that they would want to buy for local control, but you don't think that's necessarily the case?
I don't, because the Public Utility Commission has been moving more and more to the system-wide rates for gas. So there's a lot of groups that have already been cut out. Probably 3 of 4 electric customers in Texas is in the deregulated market. So in their mind, that's been addressed.
And keep in mind, that's also where the numbers of the legislators are from. Not up here in part of the map that's above the fold.
Did we have any input or any response from the Sunset Commission question? I don't know that we got to a formal question of that, about how we were treating towns.
No, we don't have a response.
Are there 3 PUC commissioners?
I think so.
3?
Yeah.
There are 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 3 railroad.
I'd be curious to know where they're from. Anyway, go ahead.
There's a comment in the report basically describing the process exists today, and it says, however, municipal involvement would not be essential because other entities, such as the Office of Public Utility Counsel and the PUC, have a responsibility to ensure customers have access to adequate and efficient services at fair, just, and reasonable rates. So you're putting 68,000 households
That's what I was going to say. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
in Amarillo and every other city in the hands of staff, office, and state agency.
That are employed by, paid by the commission, whether it's public utility or whatever.
So what we're asking today is your thoughts on whether you would consider this resolution. This resolution would, through Axum, through the Alliance of Excel Municipalities, use the council that we have for those specific purposes and a lobby representative to work on opposing this. This would be above and beyond the efforts that we do through our own.
Which begs the question under Section 5, where it states that there's a copy of this going to Freddie. How about to Rusty, our lobby?
Absolutely, and to the delegation as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need to say that in the resolution? Okay,
And the delegation and Rusty and Carol are expecting this.
okay.
Is there any idea about the kind of financial commitment that is involved?
Amarillo's piece would be 2,500.
Is there anything we can do to strengthen this resolution? Is there any compromise made? It's very
This is where we need to start. Very favorably received by your local delegation. They understand this and they'll like it.
Okay.
And I'm sure we'll take possibly another resolution or a strong, puts the bottom of this be a strong letter to follow. When a bill is filed and therefore is lining up for consideration, we really didn't go full court press, did we? Okay.
The bill is being pushed by CenterPoint Energy. I think it was a Houston area utility who was pushing for this. They also influenced the interim report. This sponsor. There are confidentiality rules even around the state capitol, but as best as we understand right now, it's likely to be a representative from the Houston area who will, again, where Centerpoint is located. There'll be a Houston area representative who will probably introduce the bills.
I want to know where the PUC commissioners are from.
We can find that.
Get that?
I don't know if we
I'll be on the website.
I was just going to say, I'd like to pull that up in just a moment here.
The chair used to, years ago, I don't know, I'm sure he's gone, used to be from Houston.
Center of the energy world for Texas.
Yeah.
When they're appointed to that, is there a term limit?
6 years probably.
They serve terms, yes.
But they can be reappointed?
And in fact, I believe the chair of the Railroad Commission is the former chair of the Public Utility Commission, as we speak.
Correct.
Barry Smitherman.
He resigned and ran for election.
And when he was on the PUC commission, I understood that he saw our side of the issue a little more and asked that they might be the rate maker for those. But when he switched to the other side, he hasn't quite had the same
Depends on where you pitch it or catch it.
pistol.
I believe that moving
Who's
all of
opposite?
this rate making into the PUC is probably the best place to do it. But again, on the caveat that the local elected officials retain that original jurisdiction. Otherwise, you have no standing different from any other single customer.
And we accept the responsibility of all the financial, the fight. We pay our freight. It's not recoverable.
Yeah, I mean, your electric bill, the city's electric bill alone is several $1 million a year. Questions or comments on the item? Have we adequately explained it?
What is the financial, how much can somebody give somebody running for railroad commission? How much can a corporation give?
I do not know. It's all reported. Maximum campaign contribution limits.
For a railroad commissioner? By a
Well,
corporation?
it's the same rules that apply to any other elected official. I think it's $500 for a corporation and unlimited for individuals who want to make contributions. But it does.
Tax, yeah. That's how some of the,
Tax.
well, never mind. There's some big numbers that go through those packs.
Okay, Donna Anderson is an antitrust attorney. She's the chairman of the board. She resides in Austin. It doesn't indicate where she resided before that. Let me check. Commissioner Ken Anderson. Ken, I've got two. His biography.
But there's nobody from Skelletown.
They're all below the fold, so.
He is also an attorney, corporate finance law. He and his wife live in University Park, Dallas.
Oh,
Is that what we're told?
it's about
No,
that.
you know, that's
And then the third one,
recognized.
that was Donna Nelson, that had the long last name. Donna Nelson was the chairman of the Ken Anderson's in Dallas, and the third and last one, Orlando Pablos.
Senator.
That's what I was thinking.
He's also an attorney.
Honing in on the problem.
2 out of 3 says.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, Marcus.
He and his wife, 4 children. Doesn't say where he lives, or his is in a different format. He, not certain of him, but I'll find it, I'll let you know. He attended St. Mary's University, which is in San Antonio. I'm sorry, it doesn't seem to indicate where he resides.
He's not from Skelletown.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be.
Good resolution. Gotta do it.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Let's hear it.
Move to the quite voluminous consent agenda. Consent item A, purchasing a big motor grader. And picture of such item.
I like pictures.
That's got a big sweep on it.
Yeah, it's got one of those swinging deals, it's all the way out to the side of the unit. Pictures could be taken to go around to, what? I would bet that Commissioner Rolando Pablos is from Denver.
Then, yes.
Okay. This just in.
This just in.
Okay,
Breaking news.
definitely.
So is this the I-35 corridor issue?
Yeah. Look at everything.
Item B, housing rehabilitation contracts award to Brown Construction Services. Two properties here, owner occupied, and being rehabilitated under your community development program,
How are they picked?
based on need and available funding.
How do they apply? How do they know about application?
It's a program is on our website, where we're committed with meetings and everything, and we have all this information. This is an application, and we do it by daily application.
It seemed like a lot of money for 2 homes.
It is, one of them has got a lot of foundation problems and complete plumbing and heating. So when we do a full housing rehab, we try to put a good amount of life back into the house. So it's almost a complete systems remodel.
Do we have many that we aren't able to accommodate that apply?
We've not done many housing rehabs in the last couple of years because it's inconvenient, because we remodel the whole house and they actually have to live in an apartment or a Motel 6 for a little while until we work on major systems. We do most of our work in the emergency repair grant program, where we fix the things that are broken, plumbing, heating, sewer lines, gas lines, those kinds of things.
Weatherization.
Weatherization, roofs.
There's two programs, the owner occupied and the rental rehab program. And I think most recently, the rental rehab program being used at Parkview and
The venues.
So you're saying we don't have any that haven't applied that haven't been dealt with this year?
In one way, and a lot of times somebody will apply for a housing rehab, and we can take them a lot of their needs with the emergency repair grant. So we have raised those limits to do a little bit more that way.
We haven't picked and chosen recipients here.
No, it's first come, first served.
It's not like a cosmetic like Mama Ruby's is. I mean, you know, if you took a before and after, you would not see the new plumbing, for instance.
It's more than cosmetic. I mean, what you won't see is the water and sewer lines or the repipes that we do on these houses. And we do lead-based paint work, especially for, required for children under the age of 6 in the house.
It's always owner occupied or?
Owner occupied.
Cannot
The
be.
rental rehab program is a matching program where the owner has to put up half of the cost.
Is there any restriction for a period of time or they're turning it into a rental?
On the owner occupied, they have to live in the house for
15 years.
15, yeah, if it's over this.
And that, Mayor, that programs itself down year by year until it disappears.
Is it unusual that there was only one bidder?
There were 2 bids that were turned in, and when purchasing opened, the second one, it was a no bid. Otherwise, we would have waited if we'd known it was a no bid.
Would have held it a week and tried to solicit one more bid.
And I have no reason to know whether this is a good bid, bad bid.
It was pretty close to the estimates, it's
Was
not
it?
too far
Okay.
off.
I know that's a lot of work for $60,000.
It is a lot of work, and we're going to be doing a lot of work on that house.
You know what they're on Brad for?
That I do not know.
It's a high percentage of what this item is.
Which is typical of a few of these that
Did you tear down a house and rebuild it for
Well,
them?
yeah, currently what they're on track for, is gonna be less than what we're putting in. But I will find that number out.
My only hope is we can spread this as far as we can. There is a recognized need, and it's going right.
Thank you.
questions on the agenda? We have one here today.
Just to kind of finish that thought, most of residential construction is about $80 a square foot, low end, is it not?
For low end without the land.
Without the land and.
We're getting a no over here.
I would ask Mr. McDonald.
Yeah, residential builders will run at about $125.
And I'm thinking about this
But with
level
land,
of construction.
You've
Even
got
for that?
Renovations,
No,
You've got the lot cost in that though, don't you?
well, some will be.
One's a yes, one's a no.
Well, some will be, but that'd be about a $20,000, $25,000 cost, based upon square footage. That's on new construction. So, on our lower end, you might be able to get it $100.
really, that's about the most you can
That's
get.
amazing.
Wow.
I was just wondering when you total a house, like a car, when you go, okay, if it costs more to fix it than it's worth. So.
Well, and
I've never heard that terminology applied to
Well,
it.
I like it.
That's the way my brain works.
That's the guy we had last week.
Yeah.
So $60,000 for a rehab of a house is a pretty good deal.
Sure. If you take any of the mechanical systems, and you'll average them out at $5,000 to $8,000 per system. So plumbing, mechanical, and electrical, just doing those three systems, you're going to be $15,000 to $20,000 without any other costs.
We don't do many of these, we may do one or two a year because they're so expensive. And so we've not done one of these in about, I think we did one last year.
Are these federal funds?
Yes, these are community development and home dollars.
If we pay our taxes, we should get money back from the
That's
feds.
what Ron Paul says. Don't call them earmarks.
Any questions on the agenda? We'll go down that road.
It's time to move on.
Mayor, if we could, that does complete your action agenda for today. We've got a couple of closed session items, and we're looking a little bit on time. So if you would, we'd like to call that.
Okay.
Mayor,